Okay, yep, it looks like it's going. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm super excited today that I get to talk with my friend Marlena. Um, as you guys know, I do all these different webinars. They all are different spectrums of everything from spiritual to really woo-woo to downright, like, let's get human and let's take care of stuff that we've got to take care of. This is one of those things. Credit is something that we all kind of usually tend to put on the back burner because we either don't understand it or we don't know what to do with it or we don't know how to raise our scores. To me, it kind of seemed unreachable. Like I was like, I don't even understand how they come up with these scores. What was that? You know what I mean? So I'm really excited today that Marlena decided to come on with us. She has, of course, like many women, so many things that she can do. She's a realtor, right?
Yes.
And she also does her credit company, which is amazing. I absolutely love this. I have to tell you this story, though. Marlena and I met at a networking event, which was, of course, super, super fun. And of course, we clicked right away. So then I found out that she did the credit, and I went to the next networking meeting where she was actually speaking, and it was phenomenal. So I wanted to have her come on as one of these guest webinars to share with her the information that you have or that she has to offer to us so that you can have the power to be able to also harness your own credit and your own ability to manifest. Because really, we tend to put things off that we don't understand. And so coming from my perspective of it, when you use law of attraction and when you're learning how to manifest, there's certain things that you don't want to look at. Sometimes your checkbook is when you want to pretend like it's not really what it is. The other one is your credit score because maybe you don't understand it and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to fix it. Those kind of things. And even though that doesn't seem spiritual, when you bring it all in to the work that I do and the whole idea with a lot of women, including Marlena, we want everybody to have a whole amazing life. So we want this life to be full of everything. So we've got to look at everything emotional, spiritual, physical, and mental, all of it together. And then the whole even crappy part of being human, which is the checkbook and the credit scores. So she brings our real life stuff into a way that we can actually use it, we can learn about it, and we don't have to be afraid of it. So that's the one thing I really love with these guest webinars is bringing women in who know what they're talking about so that they can help us reduce the fear. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to you, and I can't wait to see and be able to share this with everybody.
Oh my gosh, Jennifer, thank you so very much for allowing me to just sit down with you and visit and talk about this subject that is so empowering, and that word gets used a lot. But just like you're saying, our lives are manifesting our blessed lives and our full of lavish juju lives has to do with balance. And it takes these that you talked about, including the financial and the checkbook. And so I am really led to empower women, for women to understand this whole credit situation, this whole credit game that keeps taking money out of our pockets. I've been a single mom. My ex-husband used to handle all of the finances, and I let him. That was easy. I did work, went into the account. I took money out, used what I needed. But when we got divorced, I knew nothing about credit or the bank account or any of these things. I had it. The bank gave me an ATM card. I had no idea what that ATM card was. Not really. I know I could go to the machine and get money. I never really thought about where it came from. Now, we can look at that and we can say, well, that was really dumb. But I'd never had the experience. I'd never been involved. So when I got a bill at the end of that month for $432, I was frantic. I went to the bank. I explained, I don't know how this is. I did I don't understand. I cried. I just didn't understand. And I came out of there feeling so stupid and so belittled because they were looking at me like the powers that be and talking down to me, I felt. And I just said, okay, this isn't going to happen anymore. I'm not going to do this again. Now, that's not to say that I've lived this perfect financial life. But once I started understanding the rules of this game, and this credit system is a game. The game is to get more money away from you and I. Take money out of our pockets in whatever way the game, can. So once I started learning and understanding that this isn't how it has to be, you just need to know the rules. And then we're able to play. So nobody really teaches us credit.
Right. Well, you know what's interesting too? I know you and I are probably from a different generation, especially from a lot of the kids that are probably going to watch this. The interesting thing is I don't know about when you were in school, but when I was in school, we actually had, and I think it was only a quarter. Like back then we didn't do semesters. We had quarters in school. And we had one quarter where I remember that we did learn to balance a checkbook and what that looked like. I mean, and that wasn't even the class we took. There was an accounting class too that we were allowed to take. And then of course, back then there was still home ec. I don't even think they have that anymore. But my kids never learned in school just how to balance a checkbook. So that's something we've had to teach them here at home. So all of this is so overwhelming. And even my kids, like, luckily I've had, been able to teach my kids how to even balance a checkbook and what it means when you put the money in the bank. And luckily I met you just in time when my son was going into college. So that's been a few years ago. We've known each other for a little while now. Yeah. And so I followed what you told me about helping him get a credit card and how to do that. His credit score is fantastic.
See, and all you just need is those little tools and some understanding of this whole situation. I say we learn credit by voices. And hopefully not other entity. Well, maybe. But it's my sister said, or I heard from my friend at work, or this is what I thought it was about credit. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever sits down, like you said, and you're an exception, because I don't know very many people who learned about actually checkbooks and bank accounts.
I think it was an elective. Like, I think it was something that it was like one of those things, oh yeah, I'll take that class, but it was offered.
Yeah. And thank goodness. I mean, just that little piece of knowledge, what it led you into as far as being able to handle your situations and help your kids. But nobody about credit sits down and takes you step by step, hand in hand. I've gone to several other presentations that they say they're going to talk about credit, and it's all very not multi-level, even level, and no depth.
Really vague.
Nothing that I can take home and do something with tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I don't learn that way. I don't understand that way. That doesn't give me any information. So let's just talk a little bit about how this whole credit system thing is set up real quickly.
And I'm super excited, just, because I'm kind of ready to revamp mine again and look at it again. And so I'm like, ooh, I'm a little bit selfish because I want her to come on and talk so that I can remember what I need to look at again.
That's okay. We can all be selfish. We need to be selfish when it comes to this stuff. So the credits piece financially is in two sets. One has to do with your credit report. Credit reports are produced by TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Those are the three top credit agencies. That's their product, the credit report. And they sell that information, be aware, they sell that information to whomever will pay for it, okay? We're not the clients. We are the commodity that creates that product that they sell. The credit agency's clients are creditors. People who are going to benefit from giving you credit, okay? Mm-hmm. So the other piece of the credit system has to do with FICO scores. FICO is a company, Fair Isaac Company. All they do is create FICO credit scores. Now, they're based off of what's reported on your credit reports, but they're not the same thing. So when you get a credit report from TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian, you are not going to get FICO scores. You have to go to FICO and purchase those scores. Mm. The institutions primarily use FICO scores to determine whether they're going to give you credit or not.
Okay.
So when you've applied for some kind of a credit, let's say a credit card, they go in and they read your credit report. They read the things that have been placed on your credit report. So let's talk about that product. There is no law that says that any creditor has to report to the credit agencies. Nobody has to tell them what goes on between you and them. Say it's Home Depot. Home Depot and you are in relationship. You have an account with them. Nobody else has to know anything that goes on with that account. There's no law. The creditors have to pay a fee every time they report, good or bad. Okay? And then that 7 to 10 year timeline that we've heard that negative things have to stay on your credit report, no law. That is a business decision made by TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian for how long they keep things on the credit report. The longer they keep those negative items on the credit report, the longer their clients, the creditors, can use that against us when it comes to setting interest rates, giving you credit, deposits for utilities, cable, cell phones, if you're renting someplace. They use all that information against us so they can get more money from us. So to understand how that affects us, how it can affect us positively as opposed to how it always affects us negatively, is that there was a law passed, a federal law, back in the 1970s. It's been on the books that long, but not many of us know about it. It's called the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It's a consumer protection law. And I always tell people when I'm talking and we're visiting about credit, don't just take my word for it so I'm another voice about credit. Go and do your due diligence and research. Check it out. But that law protects us, and it states about how things can legally be put on our credit report. 99% of the things that are on our credit report, whether they belong to us or not, have been placed on there illegally, not following the mandated process by that law.
Okay.
So that Fair Credit Reporting Act also says that negative items can be permanently and legally removed if challenged according to the law. Now, maybe we know that, or we've heard that things can get challenged, or, you can go online and you can challenge an item on the credit report, right? But they don't care about our stories or your story or how something got on. They don't care about that. But when you challenge them using federal law, well, that's a whole different matter. Now we've put the proof of burden in their court. And if they can't prove that they have followed that mandated process, that item can legally and permanently be removed. Doesn't matter what the negative item is. Bankruptcies, foreclosures, charge-offs, late fees, tax liens, repossessions.
Right. And so the big thing about that is nobody tells you how to do that.
Exactly. Nobody even, you're not even sure you can do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big piece when it comes to cleaning up that credit report. When those items are removed from the credit legally, and it creates a cleaner read. So when future creditors are looking at you to decide if they're going to give you credit or not, they don't see all those little red flags to use against you. Now, when those happens, that gives you some points added back onto your scores. It does, when those things get cleaned up. But that's not the main way to add points to your scores. That's another conversation we're going to have about the FICO score.
Right. And I do remember when we met that day, we went for coffee and you quickly, looked over my stuff and you're like, oh, you could do this and this. And I was like, that's it. And my credit score was like 10 points higher.
Things they're easy. They're simple. This isn't you got to dig a 10-foot hole and jump around, in it. This is easy, simple stuff. My clients, when I'm working with them, my goal for them is to get them to 720 credit scores within 6 months. And it's right here. It's at the tip of your fingers. That's how close that 720 score is, no matter where you start. You just got to know how to do it.
And it's amazing. Like, I know following the steps that you've given us, like I said, my son's, well over, a high score. I want to say he was almost 800 when he bought his pickup.
See, and that's where you want to be, because you need to use other people's money to purchase that home or to purchase that car. You be using other people's money for that, but you want to pay the very least amount of interest in doing that. If you're paying $1 in higher finance charges because you have low credit scores, it's money you're taking away from yourself and your family. And if you have your own business, you're taking away from your business, and it's not necessary.
Right.
Women to know to stand up and pay attention, just a little attention, and and take some of these tools. I'm going to share some tools with you about FICO scores.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
So this whole the FICO score system, you can add points to your scores every single month if you're diligent and consistent in using some of these tools. 100% guaranteed.
Sorry, I have a fly buzzing around, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Put them
the
out
joys of being on the farm, right?
So some of the tools are the quickest, fastest way to add points to your scores are with credit cards and trade lines. Trade lines are accounts that don't have balances, like your cell phone. You pay every month for usage, or your utilities, or your cable, your rent. Those are trade lines. Most of the time, those don't get reported unless you do something bad.
Okay.
But on a regular basis, those particular companies do not choose to report to the credit agencies. Okay, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So credit cards. So when I say credit cards, everybody, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my
There's
God.
so many people that are like against credit cards.
Well, because they get in a hole with them and they don't know how to get out of it. You know, it feels like free money when you go and, you use that card. But let me give you some direction. Using credit cards correctly can add, in a matter of 90 to 120 days, can add 50, 60, 70 points to your scores if you're using the tools. So here's a couple of the tools. Credit cards should never, ever, never be used for anything that you don't have money for. If you're going to go put a tank of gas and you got $50 in your purse or on your debit card, go and put the $50 tank of gas on a credit card, come home, and right then use that debit card and pay the credit card the $50. Go buy groceries, put it on the card, come home, pay it right now. Do not wait for the end of the month when you get a bill. Pay as you go. Only use the card for things that you got money for. Now, if you want that $100 pair of boots and you got the money for it, go get it, put it on the card, come home and pay for it. This is how this works. You're going to get points because you're never, ever, never going to be late with a payment because you're paying throughout the month. You're never going to get a bill for a high balance at the end of the month because you've paid as you went through the month. What you've charged on that card is not going to have interest attached to it because you've paid as you went. And yet, you're getting points added to your scores every month for doing all of that. That's how one of the things the FICO system is keep adding those points for using the cards like I'm talking about. The other thing, you should never, ever, ever close a credit card account. Now, you could say, oh my God, I got 5 credit cards. I don't need all these cards. I get that. Pay those balances as quickly as you can. Your credit card balances should be 30% or less than the line of credit. That's the second biggest chunk of your FICO score, 30% or less than the line of credit. You're going to get points for that. Don't zero out a card to zero. Leave $10, $15, $20 balance on it. Now, some people go, oh my God, but the interest. The interest on $10, even if you have a 25% credit card, is less than $1.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I remember when we met and you told me that, I was like, oh, because we had so many credit cards and I don't even know why we ended up having so many. So what we've done is kind of rotated sometimes we'll use this one, sometimes we'll use that one, but we always pay them off. And then that way, because I have a couple that I'm like, I always forget to use. So every once in a while, I'll just randomly go use it just so that I can keep it active.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what you do. And then the thing about ever closing a credit card is because 35%, the biggest chunk of that FICO score, has to do with credit history. So if you close a credit card account, you've just wiped a whole lot of history off of your credit standing.
Okay. So what if you have one that you don't use?
Pardon?
What if you have one that you don't use? Because I'll use my personal stuff as an example. Years ago, we went to buy new I can't even remember. Oh, I think it was either my oven or my fridge. And we went to this place and they were like, oh, it's free, it's 0% interest. So of course I took advantage of that.
Uh-huh.
We did the 0% interest, but now I have I have an open line of credit with that company, but we don't ever use it.
So here's the good thing about being consistent with using these tools.
Mm-hmm.
If you're consistently adding points to your scores,
Mm-hmm.
then you have an option of what card you want to close.
Okay.
Because you're going to take a big hit on that when you close.
Okay.
But you also know that by consistently using the other cards properly, you're going to be able to recoup those points.
So will it hurt to leave that account just open?
No, it won't hurt. Eventually they will close the account.
Okay.
That'll go on your credit report. But I mean, it's not going to necessarily hurt, but to use the cards properly to add points to it. Like that card, unless you go buy another fridge.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those company ones. I know it shows up on my credit, but we don't do anything with it. And we paid it off within the term that was the 12-month, you know what I mean? We have a similar one with Best Buy too, because, obviously our kids are in school and so laptops and computers and things like that. And luckily our score is good enough that we always qualify for those 0 interest for, 12 or 18 months or whatever. So I do always use those. So that one's usually open. And I have another kid that's going to graduate, so we'll be buying another laptop in a couple months. So I'm hoping to get another 18 months free interest or whatever it was, because that makes sense to me. Is that smart to use those?
Absolutely. That's a good way to use that. And what I love about using the tools is that you have options. If you're adding points to your scores every month, you are not going to ever be stuck again with a 500 score and not know what to do about it. If you were consistently using those cards and using them the way I suggested, you're going to be adding points every month to your scores. Here's another thing. People can have their rent reported. So if somebody is paying rent for a home, that rent can be reported to the credit agencies. You pay it every month. You got to pay it in order to live where you live. But it really is just somebody else's mortgage that you're paying, right? You're not getting any benefit other than the house you're living in. Financially, we can make that work for you. That rent can get reported. And remember what I said about 35% of your FICO score has to do with history? Mm-hmm. So we can go 24 months back in that rent payment history. It could be with multiple landlords. It could be an individual that you're renting from, or it could be a property manager that you're renting from. We can go 24 months back to get history and have your rent reported every month. Huge. That's one of those trade lines. Huge as far as adding points to your scores every month. I kid you not, 100% guaranteed. Between 90 and 120 days, those scores can go up 60, 70 points just by doing what I'm suggesting. Mm-hmm. Now, I know women who just say to me, well, I can't get a credit card. I don't have any credit cards. I can't get one. The smartest thing to do is to check out secure credit cards. To start off with a secure credit card. What that is, it's a card that you're going to take $200 or $300. You're going to be putting it into a savings account. You get interest on that money. You're going to be putting it into a savings account. And the institution is going to issue you a credit card for $300. That's not a debit card. It is an all-out credit card. Your FICO scores are not based on if you have a $300 line of credit or a $10,000 line of credit. It's based on how you use that credit. So if you get the secure card and you apply all the tools that I'm suggesting, those points go up like this. And within a matter of months, that institution then can offer you a real credit card, right?
Okay.
And your scores are going up. And this is a way that you start creating good credate.
Okay. So I have a question about that. So since we were just talking about Best Buy, so our store cards, do they weight differently than regular credit cards?
They don't carry as much weight.
Yeah.
As far as points and things are concerned, as your MasterCard, Visas, Discover, American Express.
Okay.
Doesn't matter who's issuing the MasterCard or Visa. It just, the major credit cards carry heavier
weight on your score. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's something that everybody can do today, right now, when we get done with our conversation. People get junk mail in the mail. I don't mean emails, but people get junk mail. And it's because the marketing people, solicitors, have gone to the credit agencies and want to buy your information. Now, they don't look at your scores they don't look at your credit report specifically, but they put in their parameters. I want everybody who lives in this area, makes this money, buys this kind of peanut butter, et cetera, et cetera. All the parameters. You get mixed in with all of that, and they sell your information to those solicitors. You can stop that. You can keep them from selling your information by going to a website that the TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian have set up to allow you to do that. And you can add up to 10 points to your scores for doing that. So I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it slow because it's kind of confusing. So that website is optoutprescreen.com.
Okay.
OPTOUTPRESCREEN.com.
Okay. I'll make sure that I link that when we have the replay.
Okay, great. Good. And you go there and you want to register yourself for 5 years. Register everybody that has a Social Security number in your household for 5 years. That junk mail will slow down and eventually stop. And you can add up to 10 points for doing that.
Okay. Another question. So I have, Becky put a question on too, so I'm going to ask hers. But before I forget, I remember asking you about this before, and I think you told me not to, but I want to ask again. When they raise your credit score, do you call, because back in the day, right? Back in the day, I remember the first time I got a credit card, and I had I was like, I couldn't believe they gave me like a $2,000 limit or something like that. And I was like,
that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, especially back then.
Right.
And then I remember I used it, and I was using it like you're saying now. I don't know why. I think I had such a fear of credit cards that we were paying it off because I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those people. You know what I mean? And I had heard such bad horror stories. This comes back to the stories from the family, don't ever use credit. Like it's the worst thing ever. And I'm like, but you have to have a credit score to buy a house. And my husband and I at some point would like to buy a house. You know what I mean? But so we were using it correctly just by default. Like we didn't know that we were using it correctly. It was more out of fear than anything. But then all of a sudden I get this thing in the mail and the statement says my credit went up. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want more credit. So what do you say about that?
About raising your credit line?
Yeah, because I just had another card where they raised it again.
That's a good thing.
Okay.
That's a good thing because you have that availability. If something should ever happen and you needed it, you've got it available to you. You don't have to go out and scramble for it.
Right.
But necessarily you just go out and use it. You already know that.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, having large or additional lines of credit or having your credit lines go up, that's a good thing because they trust you.
Okay.
And periodically, you should always call your credit cards and ask them to drop your interest rates.
Okay. Do they still do that?
Yep.
Okay.
You can change it. All you have to do is ask. They look over what's been going on for the last 6 or 12 months, and they can drop those interest rates.
Okay, that's good to know because I know. I used to do that all the time, and it seems we've been lucky so far to have a pretty low interest. What would be a good interest rate right now?
On your credit cards? Anything under 10%.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So Becky has a question. She said, what do you think about transferring a bank loan that the interest has gone up a bit and transferring it to a zero interest card?
A bank loan that's got the interest has gone up, and put it on a credit card with zero interest.
Zero interest.
Okay. So that sounds good to me. I would be diligent in making sure that I got that loan paid off of that credit card prior to that, because they always have that zero interest rate for a certain length of time. Making sure that loan is paid off, or that amount is paid off prior to that interest rate going up on the credit card. But
And then also probably you have to weigh in the fee too, right? Because even though that's the one thing that's so tricky about those zero interest things that I've noticed is it says zero interest, but they charge a fee up front. So does the interest outweigh the fee that it's going to cost?
You got to look at it. You got to look at what the annual fee is. You know what? We have a zero interest card, and I think our annual fee was 42%. No, $42. Excuse me, not $42.
Well, I know, because I just got a thing in the mail the other day, and it was like a check, and it said, here, use this check. And you flip it over on the back, and it says, you'll be charged 3% or, $100, whatever's more, or something like that to use the check. So small fine print, right?
Small fine print. Make sure you check out where you're transferring that to, Becky, and you've got all the particulars of how that's going to look. But if you do that, be sure that you pay that credit card off before that interest rate runs out. So if it's for 3 months and it's a large amount you're transferring over, is it realistic to say that you're going to be able to pay that off in those 3 months of zero interest? Maybe, maybe not. You just have to weigh it. But that I would do it. I would do it with a zero interest. Absolutely. Any other questions?
I think that's good right now. Do you have it? I didn't mean to interrupt you, so I hope I didn't get you off track of what. Okay.
Oh, you're welcome, Becky. Thank you. Jennifer will give you my contact information. She'll have all of that there for you. I have free consultations. I'm glad to answer any questions. I do have services available, and I do coach. And if there's anything that I can help with, please feel free to contact me.
Awesome. Do you have anything else for us today, Marlena, or should we just kind of open it up for more questions? Or
you can open up for more questions.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. I feel like I totally messed up your mojo on where you were going with that, but there's so many good things to talk about. And so I do want to encourage everybody that's watching or anybody that sees the replay to reach out. I will have all of your information on there. It is something that we need to talk about. I was just talking to somebody this weekend about the difference in manifesting money and the difference even in my own life. And I know 3 or 4 years ago, however long ago it was that I first talked to you, the difference I made in the credit score just from the tools that you gave me on the free consultation. It was just the free consultation. Right. And so on the free consultation that you gave me, that alone made a difference on my credit score, right? Which actually took away some of my fear about money. I was right in the beginning of understanding what law of attraction is and what that means and how to make it work for you and all of those things. And it's like, you can't be afraid of money in any aspect, right? Like you can't be afraid to have it. You can't be afraid to have not enough of it. And you need to understand how it works. So you need to be diligent in understanding what your checkbook is. You need to be diligent in understanding how credit affects you. All of those things play into the law of attraction, because when you can reduce the fear that you have, then you can start to create more abundance and understand that better.
Right. The weight gets shifted off. I have found that, and I keep practicing this. I haven't mastered it, but the surrender piece, the surrender piece of that law of attraction, and not buying into all of the powers that be, the information, and lots of time the wrong information that we have that create the fear, and not climbing on to that fear wagon.
Right.
Because then we're putting our arms out and keeping everything at bay that's trying to get in, that's trying to come to us, our abundance, and on all levels. I love that whole idea, what you just said about releasing that fear and that manifesting piece. And for me, currently, that surrender piece over to the universe and to what's being manifested and what's being created helps me then be more realistic in who I am and connect better with spirit, connect better with that manifestation. And I don't have these little blocks that are keeping me from that too.
Right. Because then you understand it. Like, right. I honestly felt like just sitting down with you and understanding a little bit more about what it did, because I had no idea where my credit score came from or how they came up with it. You know what I mean? So just understanding that a little bit better gives you the freedom, I think, to be a little bit more brave about what you think you can have and what you can create and how you can manifest everything, because it takes a little bit of fear away. And that's kind of the whole thing with anything we do. Be educated in it, understand it, like dive into it, figure it out, those kind of things. So I really appreciate you. I really appreciate everything you offer. I would encourage anybody who's on here to find her Facebook page, and I'll post all of that as well. I'll share all of that information. And if you're having any credit questions or any, credit situations or whatever, like she said, she does offer credit counseling, credit coaching. Do you call it coaching?
Yes.
Whatever. And she's just a powerhouse woman anyway. So being able to just talk to her and just the little things that she can do just by tweaking your, looking over your credit report alone was huge. So it was huge for me. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome. There's one more little piece I want to add. That's another little hook. It's a whole different conversation, and it has to do with third-party debt collectors.
Okay.
There's another federal law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. It has to do with third-party debt collectors. And I don't know if you've ever had those calls or if you've ever been bombarded by a debt collector, but they're relentless. Mm. There's protection, there's ways to handle it, and understand, again, do your due diligence. Nobody owes a third-party debt collector any money. The person you owe, the entity you own, is your original creditor. So there's a whole way of handling debt collectors and not being scared by them and not being manipulated by them and not being threatened, and allow that threat to make you afraid.
That's awesome. So in other words, follow you on Facebook on your business page so that we can stay up to date, right? And learn more and more about it. And I think if that's it, does anybody else have any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and get ready to wrap it up. And Marlena, I'm just so happy for you to be here. I'm so happy that I met you years ago. I'm so happy for the brilliant light that you are. Like, you just shine and radiate happiness whenever I see you. And I love that. And I love that you bring something so hard like credit and make it, attainable to people that may not otherwise, and empowering women, right? Like, that's kind of like the whole energy right now is empowering women. And I really feel like the word empowerment is getting a little bit overused, but it's really stepping into being okay and being in that state of grace and understanding that you can learn about things and that you can do things differently and that you can change your life just like you can change your credit score.
Exactly. And almost just as easy.
Yeah. It really is that easy. All right.
It seems bigger than it is.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much. I don't see anybody putting any questions in the chat, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up today. But thank you so much for being here. We'll get the replay up for everybody. I know some of you came in a little bit late. We had a really good start in the first 15 minutes or so. So try to catch that, and I will get this email to everybody that showed up, and we'll talk to you guys all soon.
I appreciate you so much. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.